Could path tracing be beneficial to games with highly stylized art direction? Think games like Hi-Fi Rush, Sable. Is rasterization here to stay forever for some lighting scenarios? Interesting question, right, Alex? But we don't actually ever sort of think to ourselves, well, I don't need the full DX12 feature set for my new indie game.
Yeah.
I'll go back to DX9 features instead. It just doesn't really happen, does it?
Yeah, no. No. That's funny. The question though, path tracing, I guess like what you really think what path tracing is, that would be every bit of the path of light being done through tracing, and including the primary view rendering, I would assume there, if that's what they mean. So yeah, it would be beneficial. So path tracing doesn't mean you can't have stylized artwork or stylized rendering or stylized shadows. It's just a way of informing the pixel being rendered about the objects nearby that it otherwise cannot see. That's all it's really doing. And you can have the reflections, the lighting be just as weird or simple if you path trace a game. And in fact, the benefits that you could get, like in Hi-Fi Rush, they use like screen space reflections that are filtered in a way that look comic booky. You could do that exact same filtering with ray trace reflections and not have them disappear off screen. Wouldn't that be nice? Sable, I mean, you could get like super hard shadows in Sable that don't have rasterization issues in them. That's a game. You can also get really good transparency sorting as a byproduct of the algorithm and not have weird transparency issues, which probably every rasterization game has. So there's a lot of benefits to it. It's just about, is it worth the performance? Maybe not. So yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I guess it will eventually become part of the paradigm, right? But at the moment, it is the case that it is a high-end feature and won't be applicable to all games. But at the same time, some of the stuff we're seeing with RTX Remix and the thought experiment of how that could be applied to other games. I think, John, in the past, you've talked about path trace version of like Virtua Racing.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that.
Thought of that just sounds astonishing, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Alex says, path tracing can be used to just solve many normal rendering problems in a more accurate way. So that said, there's definitely cases where it probably wouldn't make sense performance-wise, given what they're trying to do. Like you look at the Arc System Works fighting games, like Guilty Gear Xrd and Up, where they have this perfectly dialed-in anime style. There's probably not much benefit to using path tracing there because they've achieved exactly what they set out to do, and there's not really any visual artifacts remaining that would super benefit from it. Maybe some like extra shadow precision, I suppose, but there's not really a need there. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's like, can I achieve what I want without any visual artifacts, without path tracing? If so, then you don't need it, but there's definitely room for it. I mean, you look at animated films that are more 3D in nature versus like the more 2D animated look, like Pixar films, for instance. Of course, they all use like super high-end lighting like that. That just makes sense. They're offline rendered, but apply that to visuals. Look at Ratchet and Clank. It looks great as is, but if they could have done path trace lighting on that, just path trace the whole thing, it would be even better, more like a real film, and solve all the remaining visual issues. And there are some. It would just solve those problems, basically.